Have you heard his falsetto?
David Ruffin, not so much because it was like Eddie Kendricks that was mainly doing the falsetto. So it was like, yeah,
Yes.
but
It listen, man, David Ruffin had a crazy falsetto. Like
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
would give Mariah Carey a run for her money, the notes that guy could hit. And it's just like, what? But
And that was
yeah,
more on his solo stuff, right? That wasn't like with the
yeah,
Temptations. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
he did sing a few falsetto tracks with Temps, but nah, I mean, Eddie took most of that. I mean, come on, Eddie had the
I
next
know.
to next to Curtis. I think he had one of the best like characteristic, right? Exactly. When I think about vocals, I think about character more than anything else
Uh,
because that's how you get. If you had like Mariah Carey doing Bob Dylan, it would probably sound like shit. You
Interesting.
know?
So it's like the
Yeah,
character of the person themselves
yeah.
really
Well,
matters. Yeah.
how many A chords have we heard in the world from a guitar player? But then you
Mhm.
hear Angus Young play it, and it's like, why does it sound like yours?
Man, that's interesting.
It's
Yeah.
characteristic, man. Like,
Uh,
so many band. That's why you have so many cats. Again, with Davis. This is why I love Davis because at the time of the birth of cool, there were a lot of imitators, and Davis was kind of being lambasted in the tabloids of his own community and any kind of, I guess, musical forum because he got pinched for being a drug addict at the time, like everybody was,
yeah.
right? And really, what sung through was Davis's character because people started to build up Chet Baker in replacement. And keep in mind, a lot of the musicians at the time that they were building up when Davis was out of the mix in those like what was it maybe between like 50, 53, 49, 53, maybe.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, they were bringing up these other guys who were also heroin addicts, but they weren't talking about that part. They were like, oh, these guys are our guys. And I was just like, hold up. He's the guy. He's the leading voice. And y'all kind of dicked him on that. But he also shot himself in the foot, right? Like he even talks about that. Like those were like the lost years of Davis. But it was the birth of cool, man. And it's funny because Dizzy talks about the birth of cool. It's like, yeah, that shit didn't have that. What did he say? He says something about like this music, jazz, it's got to be savage. It's got to make your balls sweat. And I'm just like, yeah, like, hold up, what? I guess that's the secret to ingenuity is ball sweat.
Uh, yeah, that's the secret right there. But you could hear, like, you could tell when you listen to Miles Davis, you can feel his personality just in a single note, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. And keep in mind too, like who were the really trend-setting players at the time in the music world? Not out in the forefront, but it was Dizzy and Bird, right? So you had like breakneck speed playing, just you had all that kind of stuff, like bebop, right? Like Dizzy was the architect, and then you have Miles come in, who really worked his ass off to be able to do that, and he got close to Dizzy, but he wasn't like Lee Morgan.
Mhm.
Like Lee Morgan was like, oh shit, man,
I know.
that guy is wow. He probably could play as fast as like Lemmy's head went when he was on speed or something. But Davis swung the other way. He's like, let me go slow. Let me like milk the note. Let me show you that where I'm coming from. And I actually think when Dizzy and Bird split in I can't what was that?
Yeah, late
Maybe
40s.
I'm gonna screw my years, but it was like maybe mid 40s, right?
Yeah.
Like Dizzy and Bird kind of had a split, and that's when Davis actually started playing with Bird. Maybe it was like early 40s. So ask your jazz historians, but he liked Davis because Davis did the other thing, right? He actually complimented Bird's speed by letting him do his thing, and he could hang back and accompany him in a completely different manner. And that became like those were the early signs of Davis, I think, showing that off. That he had an ear for taste.
Yeah.
Everything he played in a sense, like we accept it now. They didn't back then necessarily. Like they really hated him in the early 50s. Like this is dog shit, pretty much without saying dog shit. But no, 100%, man. Like when he finally solidified his name as like the new trendsetter and like carrying on the modern music, I mean, yeah, I mean we know him as we know him now. And then like he did all the crazy shit later and people
So
hated
do you
him
think he had to
again.
learn? I mean, do you think he had to learn Dizzy to not be Dizzy in a sense, right? Like basically, he had to learn
Yeah.
that vocabulary to find his own voice.
I mean, everybody did.
Yeah,
Like, you're looking at like before Disney didn't exist. It just didn't exist. Like we can look at Charlie too. Yeah. Yeah. But both of them in tandem were what really created that language. Right. And the fact that it didn't exist before that and people were really stuck on like this kind of homogenized version of musicality, and people just got tired of it. It was the pop music of the day that people were just like, nah, bro, we're gonna do some other shit. That's like I look at like Thundercat like that today. Everybody was like doing pop a certain way, and then here comes this dude who's like, we could also do this. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's those are the guys I think I like the most. But uh, everyone had to learn that language because you keep in mind too, Dizzy taught it to everyone in his band. He was very much a we rise together guy, and never falling to like prey to the drugs like that. He was like the antithesis of Bird that way, right? He didn't go that way. He didn't touch it. He was a complete student all the way and maybe got the shaft. He got the raw end of the deal for the most part because his ideas were so big for big orchestral arrangements right at the time when that was dying out. And that had a lot to do with certain taxes, the war effort. Bands were getting smaller because clubs couldn't afford it. I think they imposed like a 30 to 35% tax on venues and like bars and like local businesses and stuff in New York at the time. I don't quote me on that. I know maybe the numbers are a little skewed, but it was over 30% hike up on the taxes. So, all of a sudden you had this surplus of money that people could not afford to hire big bands. That was also something I found out super interesting how like culture and society, whatever, is affected by the laws that are in place. Like we're very adaptable. We're an
yeah,
adaptable
yeah,
species. Again, this is why I'd like to not forget where we come from. Like these guys adapted to what the world was like then. That's why the music sounds that way. In the same vein, hip hop rose out of that concrete and used the exact same, in my opinion anyway. People can fight me on this, whatever. I'm a fighter, not a lover. I don't know. But no, but in all honesty, when you look at hip hop and how they like cut and paste by sampling, they reference pop culture. Like everything is a communal slang in a sense, right? Bebop did the same thing, where you saw Dizzy and Bird actually transcribing stuff from like with Stravinsky and like
yeah.
Tchaikovsky, and they were actually referencing it in their music. They would take that, like they were the original samplers. But that's what made bebop great, because all of a sudden you had like this rearrangement of the classics and taking classical musicians like Debussy and Chopin and using their orchestrations to like in compositions really like whoa, look at what he's doing here. Like they taught themselves the shit, and that's like they had to, you know. You tell me, like, would it be the same if the knowledge was just given to them? Probably not.
To figure it out. Yeah,
Yeah, they had to, and you're looking at like how did you figure that out? But you did. You dissected on that level where you understood like the foundational components of what made it tick, and then you told it through your voice how that makes you tick in that way, and that's why I don't necessarily believe in like musical appropriation. because I think it's all a language and you're just learning how to say shit from another perspective, right? Like, I think music is maybe the purest art form because it takes zero effort for you to digest and understand what's happening. It's so inherent in you. Like, sound is so inherent in you because it is the thing that drives our understanding. At least if you're like, even like, I would say even deaf people, because I've had some deaf friends in my life. You know, most people know at least one deaf person, right? I would say like they use the rhythm of how one speaks in like their lip movements. It's all rhythm in one way or another, even if they don't have sound, right? Like, of course, Beethoven, famously deaf. What did he do? He sat on the floor, nude ass motherfucker, just feeling vibrations. That's also sound, right? So there's
Yeah, it's,
something, yeah, there's
it's
something beautiful in that.
how kids communicate. It's like our first language, you know. That's how babies communicate first, through like rhythm and intonation, and then you get words later, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
words are like the encapsulation of sound, right? A good conversationalist understands the art of tying words together to create a sentiment. It's the illusion of the sentiment. That's really what words do. That's why words always fall short, where sound always takes it further. That's why you can listen to like, this is why people cry when it's like Radiohead or something, or you just hear some like great art of musical composition that just takes you somewhere. It takes you a million different places maybe. And then I remember like the first time, as my mentor he would always like fuck me up with this shit, man. This guy was so knowledgeable with jazz. Like he even played with Stan Getz at one point. His first gig was in 1975. He played in Cecil Taylor's orchestra at Carnegie Hall. That was his first gig ever. I'm like, dude, that is what? You would tell me
On
to.
guitar,
No, he was a saxophone player. He was a tenor player.
saxophone. Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. Most of the people that have influenced me musically in my life are not guitar players at all. I'm primarily a self-taught guitar player, but
Wow.
I take influence from like especially horn players, probably because the connection I have with Hassan, who's my mentor, and because he could play so many different things, man. He was a classically trained pianist, because you are too, right?
Yeah. Well, bassoonist, but yeah, I wish I could play.
Oh, okay. All right, so you're bassoonist.
Yeah.
So he couldn't play the bassoon, but I think he had one at one point because he would
Hmm.
just buy instruments, just keep them around. So he could
Yeah.
play like a little guitar. He had a cello at one point. I think he also had an oboe. Like, who has an oboe just lying? I don't know, that
Hmm.
fucker. So he would play these crazy lines, just ripping. And I mean, like, going at it in time, succinct, every note, like, pieced out and clear. Like, you could snip out and make out every note, you know? And then he would just like put the horn down, sit down, and play like a C minor concerto from Rachmaninoff. And I'm like, how do you just switch?
Uh-huh.
And I didn't get. It's not that I didn't get it as a kid. I was too in awe to think about it. And I'm so thankful for those moments because I never lost that awe for, because I can be a very analytical person, but I think the thing that drives me the most is that awe. Like, I'm still marveled at music and what it
Yeah.
can do and why it is. I mean, it existed before we existed. It's the organization of sound, but like, sound was here from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Older than us.
It's a higher level than words, like you said.
Yeah,
Higher level.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, like, music or sorry, films without sound are basically moving pictures that say nothing. But then you add music behind it, you get they need music to translate the sentiment of the line or the whatever is happening in the relation of the scene. They need the music to translate that. So much so that when you juxtapose the absence of music, it's still a concerted effort. It's still on purpose. When you cut the music out, that gives you the effect that you want emotionally
Mhm.
in film. And I love that. I absolutely, that's why when we had the silent film era, you had sheet music that would go around and people would play it in the pits. You had to have something accompany the film. Otherwise, people would lose interest. There's nothing to grasp. or graft your attention onto, because we're very cerebral beasts, whether we like to admit it or not. Everyone is having an internal experience that is wholeheartedly selfish, and I think it's supposed to be that way. But, you know what I show you and what you perceive of me. But what's happening inside is mine. That's not yours. Just like what's happening in you, that's yours. So again, I'll come back to like, how many A chords have we heard? But then you hear Angus and you know it's him. I think the best musicians can communicate that, It's that inward selfishness when they are, when you can let that come out to play, or you're good at demonstrating who you are, which is something I've like, I think that's why I like Davis a lot. I think maybe Coltrane's my favorite because it's so spiritual, But for me, I always gravitate towards the guys that are like wholeheartedly, unabashedly themselves against all odds.
Like you can tell who they are in one note. It's just them. I mean, how does that happen? Because, okay, so when you're learning an instrument, you have to learn the vocabulary, you got to learn how to play. Invariably, you got to copy other people to learn how to play. Then when does your voice emerge, and how do you get your true voice out of that?
Yeah, inherently it's an unfair question, right? Because the how is too personalized. There's no how to. I don't think there's a how to. That's up to you. That's the how. It's on you to figure out the how. But I would say, can you speak another language? Have you learned other languages?
German a little bit,
Oh, okay. All right. So if you go like, try to see if I can, eine Bier, bitte, right? One beer, please. You can't have a conversation with that, but you can communicate what you want, right? So I liken that to like musical vocabulary. It's a language to learn. You should know it. You can be as technical as you want and say nothing at all, right? It's like, I always go to the ordering the beer thing because it's usually what people learn first, or they learn like how to say shit or some curse word, right? Usually it's beer, bathroom, or curse words when you're learning a new language.
You know what I learned first was how to order the doner kebabs. That was my first.
Dude, they're so good. I got a doner spot that I kid you not. I've tried a couple in the city, but none of them are as good as my dude on Preslauer Ali. Shout out to Seven Dunner. My dude is so good, bro. I still go there. Like, that is my spot. But again, when you're learning a new language, you learn like the mechanics, but you can't really like express yourself yet. So I liken musical vocabulary to that, like, because you can still have crude tools and then express yourself, but it's not hinged on the vocabulary necessarily. It's hinged on how well you can express yourself through it. Again, like, words fall short of the human emotion. It's up to the person organizing the sentence to like give you the illusion of it. So, like scales, theory, chords, all this, like, I guess to some like intimidating side of music or whatever. I always love, like, I think it's actually, is it Kurt Cobain's birthday?
I don't know.
I'm not sure, but he's one of my favorite musicians as an example, because this guy was doing like tritone subs without really knowing it. Like, that's how good his ear was. He could hear that. He could hear the harmonies working between those two notes to make that pop. That was not learned in a book. It wasn't learned from a friend. Maybe it was that he didn't know it. But holy shit, man. Like, orchestras cover his music now. That's because he had an expressive musical, how should I say it? Again, this is where I'm falling short with words.
Yeah,
but
so he knew that he needed that chord to express what he wanted to express, but he didn't know exactly what it was. It's like that was the expression going for. Yeah.
Yeah, he grabbed it because like he heard something in it, and it's just like that's what I want to say. I don't know what the fuck
Uh-huh.
it is or why it is, but that's what I want to say.
And when you're
And
listening to people, can you tell right away when they're just playing notes and there's no expression in there?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally, totally.
And how do you put the expression in? Say you've learned all the notes. How do you put the expression in the notes?
Hmm. I know this is going towards the talent conversation,
Uh-huh.
but I think some people are better than others at it. But at the end of the day, anyone can do this. And I believe that to sound like you wholeheartedly without like mimicking anyone, um, you gotta do a lot of self-reflection and understand who you are as a person and not just sit, a lot of it is sitting down and stopping yourself from saying, I want to be cool. I don't particularly I'm not particularly fond of like, let's say like John Mayer's music per se. Not that I don't respect it. I actually really respect that guy. I think he's a tremendous guitar player, and even more tremendous than that, his songwriting is very beautiful in that sense. I'm not so like up my own ass where like I can't see beauty in you know what I mean? Like even if I don't vibe with it, it doesn't mean it's not beautiful, right? Um, but he said something so right, and I think he was talking to Zane Lowe, right? Um, he said the hardest thing to reconcile is the music you think is cool and the music you actually write. And I'm like, yes, that so many musicians need to hear that, and I think if they did, they would either A, immediately stop playing, or B, work 10 times as hard. Because I think to be yourself, you gotta, in a weird way, take yourself out of the equation and take everything else out of the equation, right? Because anyone can play again that A chord, or let's say you even use a more complex device. Like I love how Monk would hear like a C minor 7 chord. He heard it as a major 6 with a 6 in the bass, right? That's super heady, but it's like, hold up, man. Hold on a second. What? It's like I remember when I learned that. I learned that reading, and then I heard it, and I'm like immediately heard it, and it changed because again, this is what keeps me coming back to music. You have that holy shit. You have that holy shit moment. You have the epiphany, like that. That's maybe the single. Apart from the feeling I get when I'm up there, because like you get those feelings in life. And by up there, I mean on stage and stuff, but get those feelings in life where you're at the right place at the right time, in the right sense, for the right reasons. I get that every time I'm up on stage in front of anyone. It could be like where I used to play at like Mo Pickens, and back in the day it was Kenny's Castaways. Now I think it's Caroline's or something like that. I could play to like 2 to 5 people in an audience, man, and I will do the same shit because I don't give a fuck. I am me. This is me to be me. I'm not playing for you. This is what I'm supposed to do, or I'm gonna go fucking crazy. So you can join the party or not. Like I don't think Lenny Bruce was up there making friends. I think Lenny Bruce was speaking what he needed to say, and thank God he did. But I always go back to that. Where did we start with this? I went on a whole tangent when I
Well,
started with Lenny
I
Bruce.
was just wondering, is it like do you have to remove your ego to be more yourself, in a sense? Ego
Yeah,
meaning all the other stuff, all the BS about self
yeah,
and all that. Yeah.
yeah. Because your ego protects you from like, what's the worst thing that can happen to a person? Is a person to feel misunderstood, or is a person to bear themselves completely natural and not be enough. That's the biggest fear most musicians have. That's why a lot of musicians go the other way, and they either take a bad song credit or a bad note from someone, right? Like a producer who's got money on the mind, or whatever person who's like, oh, you should do this. he's right. My idea is shit. It's never gonna make me money, man. This dude's got money. He's got nice shoes. He's got a good watch. Bro, I'm a fucking moron. Let's listen to this guy. No. No. Steve Albini is not Steve Albini because he listened to that guy. This guy was a dude who probably did like an ugly thing and just drove his mids all the way to the top and then cut his bass out. I'm like, oh, no. I think about that. I'm like, gee, my blood starts to boil a little bit. Like, I hate that idea. But when he does it, I'm like, yeah, no, that's that guy's voice. He knows how to use that and speak through that. Right? So, yeah, at the end of the day, you need to remove the thing that's protecting you from the truth. Like, I go back. You're going to find I'm pretty consistent across the board with things. I don't like mince my words, and I certainly don't flip-flop my ideology or whatever, my personal ethos, if you will. Like, I think a person has to be genuine and honest in their approach. And to do that, you do need to like take down the curtain of that ego that's sort of shielding you from letting yourself out there to not to be judged, but knowing you will be judged. You have to do it for yourself, Like, again, Kurt Cobain, like, if you listen to Bleach and some of the stuff before that, he's sort of finding his voice through... You can hear what he's listening to. But then you have it peppered in those early recordings where he's, yeah, that's you, bro. That is you. It ain't Negative Creep. That's more Mudhoney. But then you listen to About a Girl and it's like, shit, that's you. Oh, buddy boy. That's the thing you hear on Nevermind. That's the songwriting you hear on that like quintessential album, man. It's just two chords and like that. That's his melody. And he learned how to do that through listening really to like John Lennon, right? Those Beatles melodies. It's all nursery rhyme-esque. But I think that, when you take the ego down and you bear yourself kind of rancid out there and you don't care about the judgment, it's not that you're going to be rewarded for it. You're probably going to be laughed at. I've had an afro since I was fucking 13, man. People have been laughing at me since I was 13, too. And now, all of a sudden, it's popular again. And I was like, now I'm laughing at the world, right? Like, I've always been me. And I'm so proud of that because that's how my parents raised me, They raised me with one thing. It's like, look, you're an immigrant, you're mixed, it's going to be hard. You got to work hard. But don't ever sell yourself out the window. And that's not to say that hasn't happened to me, because I fell prey to a lot of things early on in my life that I might not have been proud of, but proud to survive, because that all ties into who I am now, right? And again, that's that thing with the ego. Like, you got to know that it don't matter who you are. If Miles Davis can fuck up, you bet your ass can too, because that's what it is to be human. But you got to get to that point first. And I think a lot of musicians are fucking terrified, especially now, because, I love comedy, right? I love comedy. Like, comedy's a great example because your OG comics will always tell you, nah, man, it takes about 7 to 12 years to make a great comic. But then you got dudes that are like, we've been doing this for 8 months. We put up a special on YouTube and let's go, bro. And I'm like, wait, just wait, man. Like, I can't tell you how many people I grew up with who aren't playing music anymore, who were trying to big themselves up with that ego. But I said, yeah, man, I recorded my first EP. I'm like, with your first band? With the first songs you ever wrote? Like, kudos that you put yourself out there, man, but I don't think you had the foresight to understand that maybe you should have, like, judged yourself first and asked yourself if you were being honest with what you were writing or not, right? So I always look at it from that perspective. You want to be yourself? Yeah, I would say you got to learn how to turn the ego off. Ego has a purpose too, right? Ego's the thing that maybe is not going to let you get walked over. It's just like fear. You need fear. You need it in the right place, in the right amounts. It's like if you have a soldier that goes into battle and is not afraid that they're going to die, they're probably going to die. You know, I hate to say that. I know a lot of people in the service, they're going to agree with me on that. Like, I think maybe it was Carlos Castañeda that said that in one of those fucking crazy books that he wrote. Was it the Trials of Don Juan? I can't remember what the hell it was, but I think you know what I'm talking about. Carlos Castañeda, he did all this crazy psychedelic, you know, pilgrimages and stuff. And one thing that I remember from all those books that shined through to me was like a warrior goes into battle with respect. I think it was respect, but the two things I remember die hard was fear and absolute assurance. They're contradictory things when you think about it. How can you be absolutely assured that you're going to succeed and also afraid of your failure? You know what that is? That's respecting fate. That's respecting that you don't have a hand in how things might turn out. But you do it anyway, right?
Yeah.
That's how I look at music. It's like, yeah, we need the ego, but you got to learn how to turn it off when you're being honest with yourself. And that's hard for a lot of people to do. And honestly, that's why I think we have way too many covers of like Sweet Child of Mine and Layla on Instagram, bro. No one trusts the like, this is my maybe train of thought, you know, like just do something. I don't know. Try something new. But everyone's afraid to be like, no, I'm not going to get all the likes, man. It's like, maybe you shouldn't be posting things that if that's what you're thinking of.
So you got to use fear in a sense. Like, how does that work on stage? Because I think the most amount of fear musicians will often feel is when they're on stage in front of people being judged, especially if there's a big crowd. You know, how does that work with fear and being on stage?
I think it's in a sense of like, because I'm never afraid on stage, but this is where I feel the most comfortable.
Gotcha.
Right? But I would say my fear, if I were to like parrot my own sentiment there in regard to fear, always comes in who I have next to me. Because I pick everyone in my band, because I write everything myself, right? So the guys that I have with me, I know I don't have to worry about. So the fear comes in the process of picking your band, making sure everyone is in the right headspace when they get there. You know, the fear is knowing that all of this could go wrong. And then I have the absolute assurance that I know I can fucking handle it because I grew up having to deal with fucking drunks and all the worst kinds of people at my shows, man. Like, I've been heckled since I was like 14. And
on stage.
Yeah, totally. Because I've been playing on stage like, yeah, since I was about 14. I had my first gig around then. And then, like the first real gig I had that like meant a lot to me, like not playing at someone's barbecue or some shit. Like it was Mo Pickens. It was Mo Pickens, January 23rd, I think, in 2007, maybe something like that. Mo Pickens, crazy gig, man. Like I didn't know what the fuck to think. You know, I had this group. I don't know their name. I'm kind of maybe that's the best part, but they wore these leotards. There was like a performance group that went up before me, and they wore these like neon day glow leotards, and they had like functioning prosthetic genitals. And that was like, I'm like, yeah, baby, welcome to the music industry. That was my attitude, right? I was never afraid of shit like that because I knew it was where I was supposed to be. I'm never afraid of the stage, but I'm also like, you have that small fear in place of where you have to know what can go wrong. And that helps me wholeheartedly because I know how to handle what can go wrong.
And what are you thinking about when you're on stage? I mean, are you playing out to the audience? Are you playing for yourself and then kind of bringing the audience into you, you know?
I have my moments, let's say, where I let them in because I talk a lot of shit on the mic with my audience. I don't let them get away with anything. And, you know, I fuck with them a lot. And I learned that was okay through watching my heroes do that too in their way. And I always wanted to be a comedian. So one of like the little side things that I love the most is when I hear, because I think maybe one of the biggest crowds I played to was about 10,000 ish. And I got them all to laugh. And hearing that, I was like, oh shit, like that. I felt that in my balls. Where's Dizzy at? I'm sweating now, bro. Like it felt good, you know? So I think playing with them like they're one person. I never think of it like it's that many. Like it's because they're all there for the same reason, and they're all in unison at the same time. Even though they're experiencing things like personally and selfishly inward, they're all there for the same reason. So there's that level of communion there. So I never placate to an audience. I think that is maybe the worst thing anyone can do, because you're inherently, before the transaction even starts, you're treating them like they're too stupid to understand what you're doing. But like, nah, man, you don't know them. You shouldn't be thinking about that. You shouldn't be thinking about, I gotta put my best foot forward. I gotta make a joke. I gotta have my ass looking nice on stage. Whatever the fuck it is, like, get that shit out. No one likes to hang with that guy at the party. You know what I mean? No one wants to be around that guy or gal, whatever. You know, I just think when you hit a stage, you're there for you. Don't cheat your audience. Don't lie to them. You wouldn't be there if it wasn't for you. Right? Shit, most people wouldn't do the gig if there wasn't a paycheck. So how are you going to lie to your audience and act like you're their fucking friend when you know you're there getting paid, man? You're there for yourself. So I'm there for me. I play for me because it's a personal thing up there that happens. You ask me what I think about. I think about every single person I don't have with me today that helped me get to that stage. That's what I think about. And just so if anyone ever like watches me play live, I watch myself and I see myself do it. But I always throw my head up and I look to the sky and I just imagine like Hassan looking back. That's what I think about. I'm like, look at where we are, man. Look at where I brought us. Look at where I brought you, because you taught me how to fucking do this. He mentored me in how to run a band. He mentored me in pre-pro. He mentored me in being a managerial sense. And like he saw me before I saw me. That's how that went. And you know, I lost him suddenly, and I didn't get to say goodbye.
When was that?
It was 2011.
Okay.
So it's some time ago now, but like, you know, I remember I got a call from him the Wednesday before he passed, and then we were supposed to meet up, and we hadn't seen each other in a bit because I went to London and I came back, and it was all this thing, you know, like everywhere I went in London too, by the way, just because I want everyone to know who the fuck Hassan Abdullah was. This guy used to organize his own USO shows, and he would do like Motown reviews, funk, soul, blues. That's what he would do. And he was the band leader and the manager. He did it all. And like, and you know, you go on the road, dude, those are two pretty heady jobs, man. Like, and you're also a performer. It's like, shit, dude, how did you do it all? All right. But he told me literally every place I went to in London, he told me how to get there without, you know, he didn't have a smartphone. He literally told me, he's like, all right, you started Carnaby, go down Carnaby, you turn here into a little left, you're going to see a place Shakespeare's Headed, and you just go down this little shit there, and then you go down, you're going to find a fucking blues bar, bro. Go there. And that's how it was. So, like, literally day one, 17 years old, fresh, didn't know shit about shit. I go to this blues bar because he told me. And, like, having that experience of walking down Carnaby for the first time and then seeing Shakespeare's Head exactly like he fucking described it, And now I'm in Berlin and he was here too, describing the same shit. That's just, I love my life because I get to, even the people who aren't with me are still with me. So
Yeah, he's still with you. Yeah.
yeah, that's
Like,
what I think about on stage.
yeah.
Like there was another guy too that mentored me like crazy, is Papa G. Johnson. And he was a big mentor to Trombone Shorty.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he was like the unofficial mayor of New Orleans. So he introduced me to Dr. John. He was the guy that set
Wow.
up the very first Jesse Hill day. And so I got to go and meet Jesse Hill's wife and Dr. John. And that dude was driving in like a fucking green Cadillac with some rims, man. I was like, oh my God, what is life? I'm loving this. We were in the 9th Ward. We went to the cemetery where Jesse Hill was buried. It was an experience, man. I got to play with the Mardi Gras Indians and Wild Magnolias and all those guys. And I met Buddy Guy because of him too.
Was that after the hurricane or was that before?
Yeah, after.
Yeah, I went
So
there. Yeah, it's all messed up. Yeah.
yeah, you see like the porch steps. That's the only thing that's left. And
I know.
that was like, you hear the words ghost town, but you can't
Mhm.
really feel it until you're in one. And like that stuck with me. It's still with me. Like I
Yeah.
say it and I'm like right there again. It's one of those weird memories that it's too visceral.
But
But yeah.
I wanted to ask you, the music scene in Europe, how is it different from the U.S.? Is it better? Is the live music scene better in Europe than it is in the U.S. or just different?
It's just different. I think the touring scene is more forgiving in terms of like they give more to artists. You can
Mhm.
get paid a little bit better depending on what echelon you're at. You get fed well. Like I know playing back home you gotta fight just to get a like drink ticket sometimes, Over here they're like, so we have a 3-course meal for you. And I'm like, wait, what? What? I ate so well when I toured with the Darkness because like we had like the best catering. And my promoter, shout out to Joe Ramba, he like 100% like just made sure like I know you guys are support, but don't worry, you're gonna fucking get fed because you're with me. I'm gonna make sure because you deserve it. I'm like, all right, at least give me a chance to prove myself before you start talking like that. But yeah, no, 100%. Like I think that's the biggest difference is the respect maybe, but at a certain point, it's all kind of the same. Maybe
Yeah.
music goers are more into it in terms of like the value of music. There's not as many. You have the same distractions here, in a sense, but maybe people know how to tune them out for the occasion a little bit more than they do back home.
They listen more,
Yeah,
maybe.
they listen
Yeah.
more. They're more in it,
Hmm.
right? Because even more than listening, like they're with it. They're with you. I remember seeing like Alice Cooper for the first time with my dad, and I was like, yeah, this is wild. I hung on to every fucking note, and I'm like, dude, this is School's Out, man. I listened to this like how many fucking times in headphones, and it's right here. I walked out I walked out with my ears ringing like it was a badge of honor that Alice made my ears ring. I was like, yes, I hope it stays for like 4 days. Now I'm not so stupid and childish about it, but that was me growing up, man. Like I think that still exists in the States, and I actually think people are incredibly hungry for it right now. I think
Mm.
people really want authenticity and transparency and just about everything, right?
I know. Like, do you think I wanted to ask you, do you think rock will return, or how is rock first of all, and will it return to what it was, or come back in a different way?
Um, I don't think it ever went away, but it needs authenticity.
Hmm.
It's been done, right? It's
Yeah.
it's kind of like when you go to a city that's historic and then you go and then you see what the city actually is. It's like, it's not the allure of the name. Like I think a lot of rock acts and look, there's no hate because I'm a work ethic guy too, right? Be tight, understand who the hell you are, get up there and do your goddamn job. But at the same time, when it comes to writing music, I think rock is too comfortable. They fall prey to the same devices over and over and over again because no one wants to take the risk. No one's willing to put down that ego and say, this might fail, but I believe in what I'm doing. There's a couple cats out there that I really like that are pushing the bar, but at the same time, yeah, I don't think we have people, not too many people anyway, that are being themselves. They're either doing a retro thing on purpose without understanding that period of time and why it sounded that way. And I think you could understand all of that and not replicate it, because you can't replicate that. You're never going to replicate the beginning of Bop, man. Like, you're never going to replicate 1977 in New York. It's not going to happen. So stop trying. Do what they did. Pay homage to what they learned and then tell it through your own voice. And stop this bullshit of this whole generation, like mine included, is an identity crisis. Because for the first time, we've had the most successful things to look back on. And I mean, like, the height of it, man. Like, we have the birth of the rock star, the death of the rock star, and then all the edits along the way. You know, like, rock and roll is not a leather jacket, some studs, and a beer can, bro. But there are people out there that just, like, they glamorize it and they want to be that so bad because, I don't know, for whatever number of reasons why humans don't like their own existence or whatever it is. It's mundane, or, you know, do you live like an accountant? No shame to accountants. I know there's some people that really love numbers, so hey. But I think that's a big issue we have, where people are trying to mimic what they think is cool because they have no faith in what they're doing. We have no faith in rock. Not only in the listeners, because it's not the listeners' fault. They're hungry. They'll buy it. Why is it that a band like, I mean, I feel like if I say anything wrong, I'm going to get clipped here, but why is it that a band like Greta Van Fleet can come out there, and I'm sorry guys, but blatantly rip certain things? It's not original, and you'll come out and do something like that, and it's like, yo, power to you, because it's hard to succeed. And I know they work hard. But I look at that and I'm like, come on, man. You're going to try to game us like we don't fucking know? What? Where's the faith in what you sound like? As I don't hear it. And we all know what you sound like, because even they've poked fun at it, right? I don't need to drop names. The world knows if they listen to rock. They know. So I look at that and I just kind of like, come on, man.
Yeah,
Where's you?
Maybe kind of what you were saying before about how, you know, actual real life circumstances, you know, industry, economics, stuff like that plays into it. Yeah. Because I think like now the way it works, right, is like you have to be proven to work before they'll take a chance on you. Whereas in the 70s, they would take a chance, right, and actually like give you money before they knew. Yeah.
But even you didn't even need to look to the 70s. Look at the late 80s and the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
They were taking chances, man. They were taking chances with stupid money. Way more money than they took chances with in the 70s.
Yeah.
Right? And then why did we land here? I'll tell you, man. Like, we landed here for the exact same reasons Prince was talking about, man. It's like, we're not going to need it. I really think we're approaching the crossing point. We're at the crossroad right now. We're like, we don't need them anymore. I don't think so. I think it's still like they still control, and by they I do mean like labels and stuff. And I'm not hating labels or anyone who's on one. I think if that's right for you, do it. Like, I used to want that. My position right now, like, I like where I sit. I own my publishing. I own my rights. And I'm going to stay that way. Because these days, no one anticipated, like, the 1984 style telesync. You know, we got smartphones, bro. We got a whole promotional thing. I look there like, you know what the hell I'm looking at. I looked at my phone. We got phones, man. We got a promotional device. We got a distribution device right there. It does leave it all up to the artist, but that's what labels are doing anyway. They are leaving it up to the artists because look, and I'll say it, that maybe people can hate me for it, whatever. They can't promote albums anymore. They can't actually promote an artist like that anymore. They need the artist to do it because they're out of touch. They're not in touch with audiences. They're not in touch with people. That's why I think people are like, the culture is shifting right now, and it has shifted over the course of the last 6 years. People want transparency. They want to know if they buy your album, that it's not going into some dude who doesn't know anything about music. Like, dude, I literally sat at a time when Greta Van Fleet got signed. I sat in a meeting with somebody, and I will call them out, at Magma, or sorry, not Magma, Lava, right? I sat there, and this dude literally said to me, man, like, I don't even like music. I'm just in here because, like, I'm just, what? Why are you in this industry? There's so many industries you could get into that you don't care about that will pay you so much more than this one. Why are you polluting this one?
Mm-hmm.
But that's who we have, kind of like gatekeeping everything. And these people inherently, they can't sell to an audience they can't communicate with. That's why they rely on the artist to do it. So I would say to every young artist out there, work on your communication skills and bolster an actual relationship with the people that want to support you, that resonate with you, right? Because that's the real power of an artist. I think it's the best time right now to be an artist because we have more control than we've ever had. Like we crossed the $1 billion mark of annual earnings, I should say. And we crossed that 5 years ago. Right? For the past 10 years, I think it's 10, like between 42 and 52% of the Grammy Award winners were independent artists. We exist in a time with like Tyler, the Creator, and Chance the Rapper, man. Like, it's been done. It's been done. Like, there are people to show the way. And I think it's separating the wheat from the chaff, where you have people that want to be cool and get paid for it. But that doesn't resonate with people because not everybody can be cool. There has to be that person that has to take 3 jobs to feed their kids, man. There's got to be that person who's got to schlep it to have their family. And that was my parents. Those are the people.
You do that stuff really well, bro. Because your page.
Thank you.
I mean, it seems like you've grown a lot recently. It seems like too on your.
Oh
Instagram.
yeah.
But like, because I remember you were at 10,000 or something. Now you're at 20,000 or something. Yeah, I mean, but you have this,
almost 22 now. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have
Crazy.
this real sense of community. Like all your posts, you have a ton of comments. It's like people that just love who you are and what you do, and it's like you have this community on your. Even though it's not like a million people on there, it's like people that love you.
Yeah.
So, and that's more important in a way, than the pure numbers. So it's.
Yeah, and I think, but like again, this is what I love about music, right? And what I try to communicate, and I think I do a decent job of it in my own voice, and I'm thankful for the audience I have because, like, I talk with all, like, they write me a message, I do my best to get back to them always, and I talk with so many different people, man, and like. Finally, I crossed off one crazy bucket list item I've had since I was 13. And I used to sit in my bed and look up at a poster of Zepp, How the West Was Won. And there was another poster of Jimmy that I had. And then I would just look up and be like, I want to be the dude who they're looking at thinking I can too. Because that's what those guys showed me. Without knowing any industry or how money really worked in the game or how gigs and touring worked, I looked up at those posters and I saw like comic book characters. I saw like otherworldly beings, man. Like they were gods in a sense, but they weren't unreachable. It was like they reached out and said, you can too. You just got to find out who you are and do it your way. Because when you look at, at least when I looked at those guys, I just saw everyone different from the next. There was no metric for success other than honesty. Right? So I now have like kids between like maybe 14 and 17 starting out, and they come and they ask me things, or they'll, hey man, thank you so. I had like one message, shout out to, whatever your real name is. I only saw the handle, so there was a kid that like wrote me and was like, yo man, I want to thank you so much because you helped me with my self-esteem. And I'm picking up music more now because of you. I'm like, shit, like, stop it right there. I could die tomorrow, bro. I don't give a fuck. I did the thing I was put here to do and inspire whoever comes next. Like, that's what I want. I want to keep this thing going because my father taught me one thing, right? Like, you come into this world, whatever the fuck you do, you better do it right, to the best of your ability, and make sure you're making this place better when you out of it. It's like a shift manager or something, right? You got to leave, or whoever closes at the shop at night, you got to make sure the workspace is clean for who opens. And that's how I look at it. Like, you got to make sure your workspace is clean for whoever's opening next, because otherwise we're going to lose humanity that way, right? We're going to lose that connection because it takes work, because we are selfish, internalizing creatures. This is a personal, selfish experience like I've been talking about. So the goal of people in a communal sense, in my opinion, is to be able to communicate the sentiments that you feel personally, and however they've enriched or not enriched your life, right? That's why hip hop is so great. At least, like, especially at the beginning of it, like, it was 100% a communal effort. You can see the parallels with punk. It was a forgiving community that way, in a sense, because yeah, you good? All right, come up. You really have to prove your worth in that sense. And yeah, there's just something beautiful about that. And yeah, I think that's what it's about at the end of the day.
Yeah, man. Well, I really appreciate it, man. Thanks for doing this. I'm going to let you go.
Yeah, but, thank you, man.
We got to do another one because this is like mind blowing,
Dude, I love chats like this, man. Yes. Especially with someone like you, dude. Like, you ask good questions, so you got my answers.
Yeah, appreciate it, bro. Thanks so much.